welcome to the Discipleship for the Decades podcast. I'm Jeremy. It's great to see each of you. If you're watching us on YouTube and if you're listening to us on one of our podcasting apps, we're happy to have you as well. I'm joined today by Karis.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome. And our wonderful special guest today, Margie Persons.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Margie. Margie is a covenant partner here at Bethel for how long?
4 or 5 years.
She's also the current moderator of our Bethel Presbyterian Women. You are on our AV team. She helps out on Sunday mornings in the back, making sure that our slides and things get sent out for our live stream.
I also feel like I have Margie to thank for some cozy bowl stuff I got in December. So she's so multifaceted. It's incredible.
Yeah, if you have not received one of those bowl mitts that you can put in the microwave, and when you pull it out, it's not hot, they are amazing.
Thank you.
Also on our sewing ministry, Margie does a lot with creative arts, and that's really kind of why we brought you here. So what are some of your creative arts that you participate in?
Well, I quilt a lot. I do basic sewing, making clothes and pocketbooks and those kind of things. I embroider, both by hand and with the great big machine. And I cross stitch. And then I believe creative arts includes gardening.
Absolutely, it does. It's mapping out, kind of like a quilt pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to, that's a good analogy there. I want to know when you started crafting. Sorry, I'm taking that one.
I think I was born that way.
Okay.
My grandmother and my dad raised me, and my grandma had this giant garden, and I can remember at 5 years old sitting with a cardboard thing and cutting out pieces of fabric for grandma to match that cardboard. And my father having a fit because those are real scissors. And she says she's been doing it for ages.
So, what happens at grandma's house stays at grandma's house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, my other question now that I know you have a garden and mapping out, I found in my brief stint with gardening, weeding and how you mitigate for weeds. I want to hear your strategy. What's your, if only I had known this nugget for new gardeners?
Fill the spaces with short plants that you like. If you have plants already in there, you have fewer weeds that you have to yank out. If you have open spaces, they just love to fill them in.
So fill them with something productive rather than counterproductive.
Yes.
I feel like there's a sermon in that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I'm just going to let that percolate for a while. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Well, okay. So, and this kind of goes, we were talking about this just a little bit before. I think you've got some scripture relative to the fact that these creative arts are something that I would say are almost a God-given talent, because I'm someone that can be creative in certain ways, like music, but don't ask me to draw, don't ask me to quilt.
Well, when I knew Margie was coming, I immediately went to a passage in Exodus 31, which is, I know immediately where you would probably go to, right?
Sure.
I cannot pronounce the names very well, but I love this passage because it talks about being filled with the Spirit with the ability to craft. So Exodus 31 from the Message, God spoke to Moses. See what I've done. I've personally chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur of the tribe of Judah. I've filled him with the Spirit of God, giving him skill and know-how and expertise in every kind of craft, to create designs and work in gold, silver, and bronze, to cut and set gemstones, to carve wood. He's an all-around craftsman. So I just love that God fills people with the Spirit to create. And yeah, I think it's a God-given gift. You said you were born this way. I think that is something that not everybody gets to be filled that way.
Well, I'm very lucky now. I retired about 3 or 4 years ago now, and I get to spend a part of almost every day in my sewing room creating things. And it gives me peace. It's really fun. Mm-hmm. And working with the ladies in the quilting ministry has been phenomenal for me. They are so wonderful. Every one of the ladies is just special.
So it takes more than just the creative, like in that case, when you're with the ladies, it's more than just the creative arts, it's the fellowship. So what other aspects do you see kind of come out other than just fellowship that you get out of the, being with the ladies?
Well, we're making a product that is then given to homeless, to Watchmen of the Streets, to Dove's Nest. We've given to at least 15 different organizations. We did baby blankets for a crisis pregnancy center. And that not only fulfills their need, but it also fulfills our need. Everybody that I know of in the sewing ministry does it not just to be playing with the fabric, but to know that they've helped someone. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. We are helping them and they are helping us, because I think God leads you to want to do. And it's really wonderful then to do that in fellowship with other people with those same needs.
Yeah, and just because shout out Jeremy's preaching on Sunday. I've been preaching on Facebook.
I should have shouted that out. Everybody, Jeremy is preaching this Sunday. Please come and support.
Not about me, but it's about the message, which I'm preaching on faithfulness. And I think that's a way that we are faithful, right? If God's given us this gift of creative arts, we can be faithful to Him by giving back to others that way. I mean, impacting local families is 200 we're trying to impact 200 local families, and each one of those is a family or maybe multiple people in a family that you guys are able to impact through what you do.
Oh, and we've got so many other crafty people here in the church. We have ladies that do angel ministry. Judy Williams is in charge of it, and they create these absolutely beautiful angels to give to people who are sick or ill or have other problems going on. And it's a way of making people feel God is focusing on them. And I truly do know that Judy is so driven to help with that. It's beautiful to watch when she talks about them. Her eyes light up. Her face is animated. It is so good. We have knitting ministry. And Miss Charity was telling me last night at a women's ministry board meeting, they have given away dozens of prayer shawls during COVID. And the knitting is a wonderful thing.
So wait, the knitting did not stop because of COVID? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, sewing ministry and knitting ministry have gone crazy during COVID. I do believe that we tease Miss Charity that she's a little machine. She just sits and knits and things come out. I mean, it's amazing. And she has continued that ministry, and her helpers, they have continued that ministry really well. And Donna Waters is good at giving them out. She doesn't make them, but she gives them away like crazy. And sewing ministry during COVID, I think you all have had the chance to know that we gave out masks when they were first. And we were something over 1,100, but we don't think it hit 1,200 for the whole group. And I mean, we even had people that don't really come to sewing ministry do 15 or 20 at their house and bring them in. It's just special. That was watching God work in their hearts along with helping people. It's watching that is so good. That's why I like working with Presbyterian women, is you get to see all the cool things going on.
So there was a part in there that I don't want to skip over, because there's a group of you at home that go, you know what, I'm not creative. But you said there's a place for people like Donna Waters, who is not creative but can still help in the creative arts.
Well, she is creative.
Well,
we're just going to say Donna, perhaps not in the sewing department, right?
Amazing painter. Absolutely amazing
very
painter.
Gifted.
So sorry. Yes. A broad generalization. She is very crafty, but
there are many places for people that aren't crafty at all. There are also places for people that are organized. Just getting all the fabrics straightened out by color and stuff. And now that we did pack up and leave Bethel Haven, and we are about to have a new home, and it's going to be called the Women's Creativity Center over in the new building. But
can you explain the new building for those listeners who may not know?
Well, and explain the kind of vision behind that. I think it's good to probably pause here for.
Okay. The new building is where we bought the building that the Blaze Youth are on one side. Well, the other side had not been utilized yet. And when we determined that Bethel Haven was a much better use to help families in need, us ladies said, okay, this is a good thing. We get to help people. But, okay, now we're packed up. Where are we going to go?
Yep.
And Carrie Doby, God love her, called us.
One of our elders here.
Yes, called us and said, I've got a spot, but you've got to think about it really hard. Let's go look. And we went in, and there was stuff everywhere, and Miss Cheryl Popplestein and I got to go in and dream.
Yeah.
And, to borrow it from Martin Luther King, I have a dream. We are going to take the back half of that building, and there's one large room that will be set up with tables and stuff that everybody can use the tables, including sewing ministry. And then we're going to have a smaller, vestibule area that'll have a high top table and some other seating where you can have a small, intimate group. And then there's storage in the rest of that. And if you understand about quilting or knitting or card ministry or any of those, there's a lot of parts that go into it. So they're giving us enough storage that all of that can be over there together and put away nicely and sorted one time and left alone, which is nice. And if anybody once we get the building finished and we make that announcement, if you have organizational skills or a good strong back, we could probably use the help, because there's just going to be a great deal of stuff to try to put away and sort out. And so there's always a spot. Sometimes just a good example, Monday morning we were over doing sewing, and everybody was kind of dreary. It was not beautiful outside, and the building had been broken into the week before, and we were all kind of just not having a good day. And Keith Miller came with a box of donuts. And we sat down and we ate donuts with him, and we laughed, and that went away.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, and Tommy would have to tell us for sure, but I don't think he's a quilter. But he was one of the best people in that quilting circle that morning. It was really sweet.
So men are welcome?
Yes. Oh, yes. I think we have a couple of men who help with the cards.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that is a creative endeavor, but it also requires somebody with some computer skills and those kind of things. So there's always spots. And the other thing we want this creativity center to be is a beacon for other groups. If you have a scrapbooking group, or if you want to do a mother-daughter creativity thing, we need to coordinate time and stuff with you, but we want it to be a creativity center for the whole church to enjoy and take part in.
Yeah.
Now, Margie, I know from pictures that I have seen that there have been women who came and helped pass along some of these crafts to the next generation through different camps that we've had with kids here. Is that part of the dream as well? Is there a passing of the torch or even training that you have in mind?
Well, we have helped with Vacation Bible School did knitting last year. And this year, unfortunately, we can't do it because Lynn and I are doing this really special vacation that we have dreamed about for years. And finally, he's retired too, so we get to. But next year, he is even going to help with some woodworking with the children. And I hope that we can. I have a neighbor that has a shop in downtown Mooresville that teaches children a designer camp. And I'm trying to work with her to figure out something that would be age appropriate to do for a vacation Bible school for a designer camp.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there's knitting is involved with, it's now Camp Spark.
Yes,
we'll call it by the right
knitting
name.
is involved in Camp Spark.
There was, at least last year, we had some ladies that were helping with the cooking.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Fine arts, like painting and crafting.
Oh, yeah. And Donna was so much fun with that.
Yep. So, yeah, there is this, like, it's cool to see how not only are you guys able to do things, but you're teaching a younger generation.
Well,
to come up
and making them feel comfortable enough. I watched this on something the other day that Picasso said, art and craft is about learning all the rules so that you know which ones you can break artistically.
Mm.
And we need to teach them, how to sew a straight line, but then they may want to sew them like that one day.
Yep.
We hope to not only infect them with the capabilities of doing crafty things, but with the joy of wanting to. And, for me, my sister-in-law and I have talked many times, just touching the fabric is cool. Mm-hmm. I love the feel of it.
Yep.
Jeannie, what is her name?
Peace?
Yes. Miss Jeannie Peace was telling me one day the sewing ministry gets together every Christmas and gives each other little small gifts that we've made or we've found. Miss Barbara Sherrill makes some of the best goodies you'll ever eat. But
we're coming next year.
Yeah, right.
We're coming.
Okay.
We're going to make something.
But they all bring something to the whole group. And Miss Jean cannot use a sewing machine anymore, cannot get up and around a lot, but she handmade these beautiful little mug rugs for all of us. Mm-hmm. And it touches your heart that it gave her joy working on them, and it surely gave us joy to receive them.
Yeah.
So I was thinking how, as you're discussing all of this, you were talking about other people who light up. Well, Margie is clearly illuminated right now. She's the picture of joy. And it makes me realize that I think there's times where we relegate crafty and art over here in the Christian bubble of here's what spiritual life is, and how much you have helped reframe that and bring in, no, this is something that is useful. There is joy, there's community, there's fellowship, and that it can be employed for God's purposes in the world, mm-hmm. in people, in what we do here at Bethel. And so I just want to say I see that in you. I hope that you hear that from this podcast for sure. And if you had any further comments on that, feel free to share that.
Well, I just truly believe that it does not matter your abilities or your disabilities. There is some piece of crafting of something that you can do that makes you feel good, that you can give, that will make the recipient feel good. And it is one of the more wonderful things in the world to be able to say, I helped that baby, or I helped that person. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't even have to be a craft. It can be the woman who was coming out of the grocery store the other day, and she had this little tiny baby, and she had 3 bags of groceries, and she looked like her hair was on fire. She was this was not her day. Mm-hmm. And you have to be careful because you don't want her to think you're trying to steal her child. But I offered to help with the groceries, and she looks at my hairstyle and she goes, ma'am? I said, you look like you need a little bit of help. And she said, oh, I thank you so much. Sometimes just being in the right place at the right time is enough. And it's just, I think that's what serving Christ is about. And I think that everybody involved in any of our ministries here understands that you get back more than you give.
And for those who've been following along this whole time, I didn't feed Margie that line about it only takes doing something small, but that is something that I often say on here, that we don't have to go super deep to get a lot out. And it's cool to see that you have that. How would you say, so that service piece, you do get back what you put in. How would you feel like that getting back from serving has helped kind of your walk with Christ?
Well,
and that journey.
I guess when my child was small, we lived in military housing a lot because his dad was in the Marines. And on a Christmas morning, the whole base woke up and we had no electricity. Our house was cold. You couldn't cook Christmas dinner. The kids couldn't even get out under the Christmas tree and play with the toys because it was cold. And the pastor in the town there called the base when they found out what was going on. And they opened up their church and 2 other churches in town for children and families to come. We took our food, we cooked it in their ovens, we let our children roam through their sanctuaries. And when I've told that story, about 15 years ago or so, one of the ladies who was part of one of those churches came up to me and she said, we always wondered if it meant as much to you as it did to us. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you right now, it meant just as much to me as it did to her. But that was when I realized how it really does give back when you give. And these people, Christmas Day, for heaven's sakes, that was a big deal, that they walked the streets in housing and invited people to come. So I've not ever looked at serving as a hardship. I've always looked at it as something that pays way more than you way more than you put into it.
Well, and that's where this, and we talked about it a little bit, but who am I, this discipleship question that we have here at Bethel, who am I encouraging with my time, talents, and finances? We don't put that in there, right? The reason it was in there is because, we have this understanding that when we give our time, our talents, when we give money, God blesses us back just as much. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool to kind of see how that plays out in an area of the church that is kind of, especially with creative arts, kind of more behind the scenes, right? You guys meet during the week, so there's not a lot of folks around campus when you guys are doing your thing. So for those who haven't been able to come by and see, a lot of it's not up and running currently. It's kind of getting back into the flow.
We will probably all be back up in September. I think card ministry is up now.
What time if people wanted to get involved or wanted more information, where would you point them?
I would point them to Linda Alexander. Mm-hmm.
That's specific to card ministry.
That's specific to card ministry. If you want to get involved in anything else, you can contact me as moderator of Bethel Presbyterian Women. I know a lot of what is going on. I've been giving out the handbooks for this year's Presbyterian Women so that if you got one of those, you can look up a lot of it. The other thing, you can call Lisa and she can get you to the right people to give you whatever information. I am impressed. There is a group of people here that goes out with Watchmen of the Streets. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I'm brave enough to do that, but I am absolutely in awe of the people that do it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many opportunities around here. And if you're not a part of our local church, a local organization where folks can help out. So yeah, it's been really cool, Margie. Our time's up, so it's been really fun to talk to you and kind of see your passion. And Karis is right, you glow, have this halo around you when it comes to talking about this kind of stuff. And so we just want to thank each of you for joining us today. If you are creative, find a way to use your gift that God has given to you. And we're going to talk about, I think, being at our next podcast episode, it'll be switching from the indoor creative to the outdoor hiking, biking, trails, right in Karis's wheelhouse.
And I'm not the one talking about it, but I will be part of that.
A guest coming. So,
excellent.
So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on our next episode of the Discipleship for the Decades.